Losing yourself in a relationship is kind of insane because the whole point of a relationship is for the other person to kind of enrich the person you are and make that person better. So the concept of losing yourself is just crazy to me. And I definitely went through a period of time where I lost myself in a relationship. And I'm honestly still building myself back up. While I was in the relationship, there was a lot of betrayals of trust, and there was a lot of incidents where I got betrayed in various ways that made me lose a lot of trust in said individual. And they were on their own learning journey, which is why I was staying around, but it caused a lot of trauma. It caused a lot of doubt. It caused a lot of uncertainty. It caused a lot of insecurity. And because of all that, over time, it just started to build and build and like snowball to the point where I just completely lost myself. I was just empty. Like, I was empty. I didn't know who I was, what I wanted to do, where I was going. I had no confidence in myself. Like, my entire personality shifted. And the person I was prior to that happening was a very ambitious person. I was somebody who was okay with getting hard work done, and somebody that if I put my mind to something, then I can achieve it. But in the course of taking so many L's and then the relationship also being so hard, I prioritized it so much because I felt like the rest of my life was falling apart. And if this falls apart, I have nothing. I was identifying myself with the relationship and putting all my worth and value into it when I should have been doing that inner work at the time and reconnecting with myself and taking a pause on the thing that was causing the damage. Looking back now, I gave a good 2 years of myself to that relationship, and I just wasn't doing it in the healthiest way. And granted, the other party wasn't making it an easy environment to want to succeed in either. But, I have to take accountability for the things that I was doing. And if I knew I needed space and to separate myself from that because I was losing myself, I should have had the foresight to see that. But in the time I didn't, I prioritized just the feelings that I was craving, the feelings of being wanted, the feelings of having somebody, not being alone. I was scared of separating myself because I didn't want to get to a clear state and then realize I may not have wanted that relationship. And all that just fear was just built in me, and it made me not want to do anything. And anytime I had an idea, I would just really break it down to make it so hard for me to accomplish. Like, just the thought of starting was too much for my brain to handle, and then the thought of consistency was too much for my brain to handle. I would tell myself I was gonna do stuff, and then I would be like, "Oh no, we could do it tomorrow," and then tomorrow became tomorrow, and then tomorrow became tomorrow, until it was the next day and the next day and the next day, and I just was doing nothing. Like, I would literally come home from work, get changed, and then sit in my bed and watch TV. And I did that all day for days. I had no joy for life anymore. I was kind of just letting life live me, and I wasn't living life. I was living to work at that point. I just had no inspiration, no passion. I was just so like there was no drive in me anymore. It just felt like I was disconnected and I couldn't find my way back. It just felt so impossible and so overwhelming. So much so to the point where in that relationship, the other party decided to break up with me because they seen that I wasn't my full self and that they were contributing in a negative way to the deterioration of who I was. And it was a hard pill to swallow. It was a really hard pill to swallow because you don't ever want to admit you're really that badly gone, because then you have to also recognize there's so much work that you need to do. And that's the thing. You're never going to stop putting in work into yourself. You're never going to be that perfect person. You're never going to get to that perfect state. It's a consistent growth and change effort that is going to go through the rest of your life. And I had this idea in my head that I was already where I needed to be. And I already developed the tools that I needed to get through the rest of my life. And I was not open to the idea that I did need to change in a lot of different areas. I thought that people just had to accept me the way I was and that they just had to deal with it. And that was just not the right way of going. And I slowly learned over time through people and experiences and different resources that that is just not the correct way to go about things. And this is exactly why I ended up losing myself in the relationship. I prioritized the relationship way too much. And I'm not saying you shouldn't prioritize a relationship, because it's important to prioritize a relationship, but you also need to prioritize yourself. And even after the relationship ended, I remember I was trying to do things to, I guess, self improve, but a lot of it was fake because it was more of a facade. I was doing it because I knew that the other party wanted me to do it, but I really wasn't doing it for myself. I mean, on some level I was, because it was a good distraction and I did enjoy it, and it was me also exploring different interests as well. But I know it wasn't fully for myself, because as soon as the other party started to come around, dropped a lot of the things that I was doing. Like at the time, I started taking dance classes and I was rock climbing and going to the gym consistently. And slowly but surely, the other hobbies, they dropped off, and it was just like, you know, even if I couldn't pay for something at the time, I could have supplemented it with something else. And I wasn't doing that. I just was reverting back to my old patterns because the person was showing interest in me again, and I didn't need to actually inflict any more change. There was no more motivation for the change because I tied my motivation for the change to said person. It wasn't anything internal, but I was blinded. I didn't understand that. I thought that was me wanting to change, and I just thought it paralleled with also wanting to get the person back. Realistically, that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case because the change did not, it wasn't sustainable because it wasn't for me. Now, the gym was sustainable because there was personal motivation there for me. But all the other things, it wasn't as sustainable because the personal motivation wasn't fully there. After a lot of trial and error with the relationship, I've come to learn that I need to find that inner happiness within myself, because I have to enjoy the comfort of being alone and the be okay with the fact that this person may not be in my life for the rest of my life, and find other things that bring me joy instead of just focusing on trying to better the relationship. Because the reality of the situation is whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And a lot of times, sometimes that is out of your control. There is nothing you can do about what somebody else decides to do. So the best thing you can do is just move forward with the things you want to do, the things that you can control, the things that you can contribute. And I think it's just really important to keep that in mind moving forward, especially if you're getting out of the phase of losing yourself. But if you're deep in it, yeah, just take a step back. That is the best thing you can do for yourself, is to take a step back. And I wish at the time I had the strength to recognize that I needed to take a step back, but just take a step back, because you being by yourself is going to give you the clarity you need as to where you want to go and who you want to be. And don't beat yourself up so much about it because you're in that state. It takes time to get out of these states. It takes time to get out of these mindsets. But as long as you're actively trying and putting in a great amount of effort, you will get to this point. I feel like I could have gotten here a lot faster. Somebody nudged me in the right direction, and I just started to understand where I was lacking so much. And it just feels so freeing to be able to really walk on my own path again and reconnect with myself. That's not to say I don't struggle, because I am very new to this. This all happened within the last 6 months. So this is all very fresh still. But I do feel like I am a completely different person than I was a couple weeks ago, than I was before the breakup. I don't feel like that old individual anymore. I actually feel reconnected with the old me who was super ambitious, who was super driven. The moral of the story here is sometimes you are going to lose yourself, and sometimes you might not even see it coming. It might just happen progressively to the point where you just get there and you don't recognize yourself. And that's okay, it does happen. When you gain that awareness, that's when you need to start being proactive and putting in steps for change. But I want to know, have you ever gone through a period of time where you lost yourself in any kind of way? And how did you get to that place of finding yourself again? What were the paths and the steps that you took to regain or reconnect with yourself? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks, guys.